Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Senator.
I was pleased to hear that you understand the economic impact of the ability of a family to work offshore in order to create an opportunity for their daughter to have the future such as you have had. So, because some people are just insensitive to that or don't care. Now, you had mentioned earlier, I'm told, a question from Senator Manchin that we will continue leasing. But I'm going to press you on that. We will continue leasing means sometime in the distant future, 10 years from now, we may have another lease. But as you know, there has to be kind of certainty as to the flow. Next year, we're going to have a lease, and the year after, and the year after. Because if you work for a company which serves those rigs, you can't have a 2-year interruption. Everybody's laid off, and you can no longer do it. So will there be a lease sale in 2024?
Senator, so thank you very much. What I would say to you is that we've got a 5-year plan, and if I'm confirmed as the Deputy Secretary, my top priority, I've said a piece of this throughout the hearing, it would be to immediately, at a deeper level, understand the policy implications and our policy decisions in the energy space. And this is one of them that's very important. And I would want to work with you to understand, for example, our 5-year plan, the approach to offshore leasing that we
So let me stop you for a second.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
In a previous hearing, acting deputy secretary suggested that it would take 18 months to process this. Well, that would put us into late 2025 and 2026. You're thinking, you've been in office for 3.5 years. If you'd started right off the bat, we would have like something happening now, and then something happening in 25 and 26. So it seems as if there's foot dragging. I'm just from the outside looking in. Oh, how long can we stretch it out so that, yeah, we're technically doing it, but in reality, those families that depend upon this income, as your family once did, they will be left hanging out to dry, but we don't care because we don't want it to happen. So I guess my frustration is, why is it always tomorrow that this is going to happen? Why didn't it happen when the dadgum administration took office?
So, Senator, I know this is, this is a frustrating response to you, but I'm just speaking the truth, which is that I haven't been part in the policy, conversation on energy since I've been in the administration. So if I were confirmed as Deputy Secretary, I would be, and I would seek to understand the details and the implications at a deeper level at that time.
Well, then let me just mention another observation.
Yes.
It does seem like there's a strategy of death by 1,000 cuts. So there's been this latest ruling regarding the rice whale, in which they found critical habitat, maybe because there was a single possible, maybe kind of, we think could have been sighting off of Texas, and they know they're off of Florida, and so they're putting a corridor in between. So far, not too bad, except where they've actually seen the rice whale. The corridor is about 5 miles wide, and off the coast of Louisiana, it's anywhere from 20 to 30 miles wide. That is significant because there's a 10-mile-per-hour limitation on speed only for offshore service vehicles, for the rigs, not for a powerboat. So it's like a targeted, we're going to make it economically inefficient for you to actually drill offshore. Now, you have not been there while they're doing this, but that is the sort of thing that from the outside looking in, it's just hard to convince me that this is not a strategy of death of 1,000 cuts to the people who depend upon this industry for their economic livelihood. Again, you're going to say, and rightfully so, you've not been part of that decision-making, but that will be something that I will be kind of looking at. Yeah. It doesn't seem, the science seems quite convenient. We're relying on the science, but you can't help but notice it's 5 miles wide here, but where there's outer continental shelf drilling, it's 20 to 30 miles wide. That science makes a lot of sense to me. No, it doesn't. Now that I've been kind of bursting at the head, let me go here. Revenue sharing, let me just ask you about this. Yeah. Revenue sharing, Land Water Conservation Fund, which I know that the chairman has used very nicely for West Virginia and that Daines was speaking very highly of, is funded almost entirely out of oil and gas revenues. There's a cap that limits the amount coming to the Gulf states, which we use this for coastal restoration. by the time this conference is over, this committee hearing's over, my state would have lost about 100 square yards of land to relative sea level rise. We use that money by our state's constitution, to rebuild our coastline. Last year, Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama missed out on about $216 million that would have gone to local resiliency in these 4 states, because there was this cap that we're trying to raise with the RISE Act. So I'm just asking you, with your experience in the Everglades, is there a nice ROI on investment in resiliency, which is to say that if we invest now, we have to spend less later?
I promise I didn't plant that question with you, Senator Cassidy. Yes, there is a tremendous ROI. You know, the numbers we've used in the Everglades for wetland and coastal restoration is something like 4-to-1 ROI, and that's an old number. It's probably higher now. I traveled to Louisiana last August and spent some time out there looking at some of that coastal restoration, and I think, you know, I know you've got the RISE Act. The RISE Act is moving through, and you know, if I'm confirmed as deputy secretary, or even in my current role, my current portfolio, you know, I would welcome the opportunity to work with you, understand, you know, that you've given me some good numbers. I'd like to understand those better, about the impact in when it comes to revenue sharing cap as well. Because coastal restoration is obviously essential for our coastal states.
Thank you. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.